Tonight, you might eat a slice of pizza and never think twice about it. You'll fold it in half. You'll watch the cheese stretch into long golden strings. It feels like the most normal food in the world. But that slice on your plate has traveled thousands of years through ancient empires, plagues, wars, and a very stubborn queen just to reach you. Where did it actually come from? Let's find out. Long before pizza had a name, people were already pressing dough flat and baking it on hot stones. In ancient Egypt, bakers made flatbreads using wild yeast they didn't fully understand yet. In ancient Greece, people ate a flatbread called plakis, topped simply with olive oil, herbs, and sometimes cheese. It wasn't pizza, not yet, but it was close. Think about that for a second. The idea of flat bread with toppings is almost as old as civilization itself. Why did so many separate cultures land on the same idea? The answer is simple and a little beautiful. Flatbread was fast, it was cheap, and it used almost nothing. Just flour, water, and whatever you could find growing nearby. Poor families across the ancient Mediterranean needed meals that didn't require expensive ovens, plates, or utensils. A flat piece of baked dough could be a plate, a spoon, and a meal, all at once. It solved a real problem. That's often how food history works. The most iconic dishes usually start as clever solutions for people who had very little. Now let's jump forward, past the Roman Empire, past the Middle Ages, and into a booming, chaotic city on the coast of Italy, Naples. By the 1700s, Naples was one of the most crowded cities in Europe. Thousands of poor workers, dock hands, and street vendors needed food they could eat standing up, walking to work, or between long shifts. And so, on the streets of Naples, something new began to take shape. Bakers started topping their flatbreads with tomatoes. This might sound completely unremarkable to you today, but at the time, it was almost shocking. Tomatoes had arrived in Europe from the Americas only a couple hundred years earlier, brought back after Spanish exploration of what is now Mexico and Peru. For a long time, many Europeans actually believed tomatoes were poisonous. Wealthy families avoided them completely. So who finally decided to eat them? The poor did. The working class of Naples had little to lose and plenty of hunger, and they discovered that this strange red fruit was not only safe, it was delicious on warm flat bread. Food historian Karol Helstowski, who has studied Naples extensively, describes this era as the true birthplace of what we would recognize as pizza. It wasn't invented in a palace, it wasn't created by nobility. It was built slice by street vendors trying to feed hungry workers for almost nothing. For decades, pizza stayed a food of the poor. Upper class Italians considered it beneath them. Can you imagine that? The very food loved across the entire modern world was once seen as embarrassing to eat in public. But everything changed because of one royal visit. In 1889, Queen Margherita of Savoy traveled to Naples with her husband, King Umberto I. The queen had grown tired of the rich, heavy, French-style food typically served to royalty. She had heard about this strange, humble street food that the working people loved, and she wanted to try it. A local pizza maker named Raffaele Esposito was brought in to prepare something special for her. He created 3 different pizzas, one with lard, cheese, and basil, one with tiny fish called cecchinielli, and one topped simply with tomato, mozzarella, and fresh basil leaves, red, white, and green, matching the colors of the newly unified Italian flag. The queen loved that one the most, and so, out of respect, Esposito named it after her, Pizza Margherita. A dish for the poor had just been personally approved by royalty. Overnight, pizza's reputation began to shift. But this is where the story could have simply stopped, staying a local specialty of one city on one coastline. Instead, it was about to cross an ocean. Between 1880 and 1920, waves of Italian immigrants left for the United States, many escaping poverty, searching for work. They carried very little with them, but they carried their recipes, their memories of home, their pizza. In New York City, immigrants opened small grocery stores and bakeries. Slowly, informally, some began selling slices of pizza to their neighbors. In 1905, a man named Gennaro Lombardi opened what's widely credited as the very first licensed pizzeria in the United States, in Manhattan. At first, pizza stayed mostly within Italian immigrant communities. Most Americans had never even heard of it. So, how did it spread to everyone else? Soldiers. After World War II, American soldiers who had been stationed in Italy came home with a powerful craving for the food they'd eaten overseas. Historian Paul Friedman, who researches the history of food and taste, points out that returning soldiers were part of what introduced pizza to a much wider American audience, curious to try what their friends and family members couldn't stop talking about. Restaurants opened, then chains formed, then delivery services followed. In just a few decades, pizza transformed from an unfamiliar immigrant food into something almost every American town had on a menu. But here's the part that might genuinely surprise you. As pizza spread across the world, it didn't stay the same everywhere. It transformed again and again, shaped by whatever culture it landed in. In Japan, you can find pizza topped with squid and seaweed. In Brazil, a common topping is green peas. In Sweden, banana curry pizza is a completely normal menu item. In India, paneer and tikka masala pizza outsells plain cheese in many cities. Doesn't that challenge what you thought pizza even was? There is no single correct pizza. There never really was. Every culture simply took the same basic idea: flat dough, a few toppings, quick and shareable, and reshaped it to fit their own taste, their own ingredients, their own traditions. Food anthropologist Sidney Mintz spent much of his career studying exactly this kind of transformation: how foods travel, adapt, and take on entirely new meanings depending on who is eating them and why. Pizza is one of the clearest examples in the modern world. It began as a meal for hungry dock workers who could barely afford flour. It became a dish fit for a queen. It crossed an ocean in the pockets of immigrants with almost nothing else. And now it appears on menus from Tokyo to Stockholm to Mumbai, changed just enough to feel local, yet still, somehow, unmistakably pizza. So the next time a warm box lands on your kitchen table, take a moment before that first bite. Underneath the cheese and the sauce is a story about survival, about a poisonous looking fruit nobody trusted, about a queen who wanted something different, and about millions of people who carried a simple recipe across an entire ocean because it reminded them of home. That slice in your hand isn't just dinner, it's a small, edible piece of human history. Tonight, you'll eat a slice of pizza, and you still might not think twice about it. But now, maybe, just maybe, you will.